It's going right in the basket. You didn't do that. Ray, good to see you.
Good morning. Good morning. There we go. Everyone's alive with another glorious day in Denver, Colorado. And thank you all for being here. My name is Rick Kinsman. I'll be the MC for today's service. And thank you so much for all of you for sharing your time with us here today in our magnificent sanctuary. And just a couple of announcements. One is if you do have a cell phone, if you wouldn't mind putting that on vibrate or silent, or as I like to say, stun. Just so it doesn't disturb us. And one other announcement. Barbara Vale always, every Sunday, lovingly creates this altar here in the front. For those of you who would like to place an object or even just write something that you would like to absorb the holy energy of the day of this service, and then just remember to pick it up on your way back. And those objects will be infused with all the glorious energy that's in this room today. Today is National Children's Day. I don't know, it seems like every day should be National Children's Day. It's, I don't know, we live in a weird world. We live in a weird world. And before I go any further, are there any new folks here for the very first time? Anybody here? One. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for coming to share your day with us. Welcome to Althea. And the flower here is so that we can point you out and embarrass you with all sorts of love and riches of that kind. And so thank you so much. Welcome, 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 welcome. So, what else do we want to say? I know that we come here, I'm just going to speak from the heart here. I know that we come here to re-energize ourselves so that we can walk out of these doors and face the world, to be with like-minded people. I mean, isn't that the reason that we come here or to any spiritual place? Yeah. And for those of you, and maybe the new person, hopefully you'll forgive us, but this community has gone through a very difficult time. We've lost we know where she is. But the spiritual director is no longer there. She resigned, and it's a new day. There was, let's face it, some anger. There was also love. There was support for her staying, support for her leaving. So in a way, it was a very divided community. It was a microcosm of what's going on in our very own country. It's astonishing, just astonishing. And I don't know if any of you saw the January 6th hearings or watched that 12-minute video. Again, astonishing. The other astonishing, although not surprising, is after Uvalde, Texas, no legislation passed for gun control. Now, you might say, why is he using the pulpit to preach about, political parties, political this or that, or negative stuff? Well, that's the world we live in. And to deny it is to simply put our heads in the sand. And it is only by facing what we least want to face that we can truly let things go. I could rant on and on and on, and I have, just ask my husband, or some members of the community. But I came to the ultimate conclusion, what good would it do? Would it do any good? Anger is not necessarily all bad. It is not, let me repeat that, anger is not necessarily all bad. It spurs us to action. But one has to be very discerning about what kind of action. Now, if I stand up here and purport to be a believer in oneness, then I must embrace that with all my heart, as each and every one of us here must, in our own way. That is not an easy road to walk. It is not easy being human. Maybe for Elon Musk, because he gets to go out there. But for most of us, not for most of us, for all of us, we all have our challenges. They are all unique to us because we are all unique human beings. And so I say to the community, those who are online, through our Facebook and other who may watch this as a recording, I simply invite us all as a time to come together as much as we possibly can, to heal, to express that anger, to express that joy, to really, in our heart of hearts, support Catherine Newell in her new adventure. And if we need to forgive her for whatever imagined injuries, then let us forgive her. And that's up to each and every one of us. And if you were a supporter of her, I really hope you come back to the community, or if you're still here, great, thank you. But we are here truly, truly for everyone. No matter what you may have heard, no matter even what you may believe, this community is about oneness and about love. And while I may be getting a little hot under the collar, it's because this community has been disparaged and accused of egregious behaviors. And I am sorry, that is not a truth. Now, I am to read a statement from the board. That felt really good. Is it good for you? It's good for me. All right. With Catherine Mills' departure as our spiritual director, there are many questions around what happened. In her role at Althea, her messaging and presentation seemed to be polarizing. Many either strongly approved or strongly disapproved of her, which resulted in a split of the Althea community. This split caused a severe drop in Sunday attendance, provable, membership, provable, as well as in contributions, provable. Those are my words. Coupled with the pandemic and also Jonathan was our former spiritual director here, this situation has proved challenging to build back from. With full disclosure, Catherine resigned without feeling validated, and likewise, many of the Althea team and in the community did not feel listened to or understood by her. Neither Catherine nor the board could see a possibility for bridging this gap, and Catherine resigned. We are a community which strongly invites and encourages all to explore spirituality and mysticism in an environment that feels loving, joyful, and open. We also choose to continue improving and evolving, always remaining open to learning new ways of inner being and outer behavior. We are absolutely committed to moving forward, as well as growing stronger and more diverse in all ways, and in welcoming back the people who have left since and after the pandemic. We have no fear of change. That's the basis of life. And in fact, we welcome change as being an essential component of life itself. It's just that there were some changes that a lot of us did not embrace. And that's an opinion. And everyone is entitled to their own opinion. We are inviting a new, vibrant energy to Althea. Your voice, presence, love, and commitment are welcome here. I would like to say one more thing before I move on to an opening prayer. And that is, and again, to everyone, past and present and future, on social media, etc., this community owes a great deal of gratitude to the board. And I encourage you to thank them personally. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move into an opening prayer.
Rick, can I ask a question? Is there another search for a...
It's an excellent question. I believe that there is going to be some time given to settle down. Ginny and the board have worked like they did, 6 months, 8 months, a year ago, in bringing an incredibly diverse array of speakers. And so we are going to continue that going forward in the foreseeable future. I'm not on the board, so I don't know, but I don't know if anybody on the board wants to address that, but I'm going to say what I know is that it's down the road. Does that answer your question? I think if that day comes, which it probably will, a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, it will be a different process. I can guarantee you. But thank you for the question. Any other questions or comments? Emotional outbursts? Okay. Then let's, if you're comfortable, just close your eyes. And just breathe deeply. Just breathe deeply. And as we exhale, just feel the shoulders sinking. The diaphragm, the stomach just letting go and relaxing. Feel that oneness of the breath entering you. Because each of you are a divine incarnation of oneness. Each and every person on this planet wears the face of God. And this infinite source of light, life, and love, and laughter, and learning lives within every single cell of you and lives within every single atom of the universe. And we are one with it, and therefore one with each other. This day is so blessed. Each of us is alive. Each of us is a walking representation of wholeness. And as we gaze upon those of us who are different, who may disagree with us, let us look at them with that same wisdom and knowledge that they are unique and whole. Because when we really just breathe deeply and we shut out the world, the noisy world, filled with its hypocrisies, with its lies, its diversions, when we shut that world out and get quiet, we come together. And when each of us comes together in this manner, this is what enables us to go out into that hypocritical, loud, lying world and say, no, stop. This is who I am. This is who you are. We are one in our own unique, individual, special ways. And that is not an easy task. But I say to you, if you embrace these principles, it is so simple. It simplifies everything. And with hearts filled with love and with gratitude, each in your own way, give thanks and gratitude for your blessed life. I know I give thanks to this community, to this building, to its founders, to the blessedness of living in Denver, of Colorado, of the blue sky, of being alive in this magnificent country, on this magnificent planet. I give gratitude for Catherine, for what she brought to this community. I give gratitude for her future success, and know and bless her on her journey. And so let us just release it all, knowing that we have a blessed message from Pouria coming to us, and what a gift. And so we say together, and so we
Morning. Please stand as you're able and join me in the statement of being and in the peace of God. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one is all, perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. We are individualized expressions of God, and are every one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. grace of God.
Well, I'm going to just say a quick word before we play this. I didn't know that you guys were going through such a transition period. And I also have gone through a huge transition period, and I chose this piece without knowing what you guys were all going through. But for those of you who have met my two pups, one of them...
Pups? Those are pups?
Yeah. So I have the heartbreaking news to share that Jasper, one of them, passed. He started having seizures and wasn't even 2 years old. So it was heartbreaking and very challenging in January. I won't tell the whole story, but there was a female who was possibly going to join our family before all the illness started to happen. And she went to an elderly woman who had just lost her husband. And a week after Jasper passed, I got the text that said she needed a home. So, and her name is Grace. And aptly named, and she was a total spark plug, and our dear Micah is now Mr. Smiley again. And she is 73 pounds compared to his 120, and she meets him in every way. So at some point in time, I'll bring both of them back. And she's just as social as Mr. Jasper or Mr. Micah. So the piece, I share that because the piece that we're going to play is called Evergreen. And I've played it here before, but it just felt very apropos. It's written by a man named Keith Murphy, and he wrote it in honor of his father who passed. And the evergreen, which is evergreen and ever resilient. And with everything we've gone through individually, collectively, and as a nation, and as a planet right now, I think that's an ideal and a reality that we can hold on to and commit to.
Sandra Wong. and all the millions of things he does around. I wanted to read, before I introduce our speaker today, Pouria, I wanted to read the acknowledgement, a tradition that Catherine brought with her, and I think has some deep meaning for us, and this is the acknowledgement of the indigenous lands that we stand on. We want to acknowledge the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute peoples. This is their indigenous land that we currently are residing on, and it is important for us to name it for the people whose lives matter. Their legacy matters. Who they were, who they are, and continue to be really, really matters. So just take a moment to breathe in this land acknowledgement. This place is sacred, and it is made even more holy by the land underneath it. This place being the Althea Center, founded by amazingly courageous women over 100 years ago. The Althea Center is proud to be the home of Spirit of the Sun, whose work in this community through activism, programming, and education is making a difference for indigenous communities through activism, programming, and education, making a difference for indigenous communities, one youth And now it's time for Pouria. He has spoken here several times, always to great applause and wonderment and depth. He is the founder of In the Footprints of Rumi. He shares his privileges as someone familiar with the language, culture, and religious spiritual background of Rumi to support individuals in understanding what Rumi said and taught, which has been ignored, erased, or misinterpreted through translations and renditions in the West. The question he is asking us, what is the real, ever-present joy? And how can we be in touch with it amid chaos without disassociating from the world or sacrificing this innate birthright to taste joy in this lifetime? I hope you have some answers. Welcome, Pouria.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the infinitely good, the all-merciful. Rick has already guided us inside, so I'm just going to bring us in before I continue. If you could just close your eyes and just take 2 to 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. There is nothing outside. There's nothing outside in the realm of form that you will miss. And when we, one by one, close the windows of the 5 senses, then we can utilize them to energize the heart and to go in the world of the unseen, which coexists with this world of seen, the visible form. And just bring your attention to your heart center. You can place a hand over your precious heart as you're inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Feeling the bottom of your feet touching this precious earth, knowing that at all times you have a source of being grounded right beneath the soles of your feet, while the mind is everywhere else but here. See if you can feel your heart beat or the pulse of your heart. The most faithful sound and beat and presence in your entire life up to this point and all the way to the grave. A few inches below our noses. So faithful, yet we are so forgetful. And as you're sensing your heart, feeling the warmth being generated between the palm of your hand or hands, which are only an extension of the heart, as you're feeling the warmth, maybe even sensing the light, visualize and sense a beautiful star about a foot on top of your head, above the crown of your head, which is always there. Feel its warmth shining like a sun, about a foot above the crown of your head. It's like a sphere, full of warmth, full of light. And as you're inhaling and exhaling down through the nose, naturally, start to slowly allow this star to descend, coming down, touching the top of your skull. And its light starting to penetrate inside of your head, bringing light to your brain, to your head. And slowly just follow it, descending further down through the spine, through the neck. Bring it all the way and seat it in the middle of your heart. And as you breathe in and out, pay attention to this energy between the star above the head and the light and the warmth that is being this channel going straight into your heart. And breathe it in, and in your heart, everything that passes through your heart, all the blood cells, turn into light. And then they travel to the rest of your body. So start to feel your body, your being as light, warm, full of divine light. Every cell of your body, every bone, every organ is filled with light. And then as you continue to breathe, see if you can just slowly and naturally expand this light to your immediate surrounding. A little bit outside of your body, even all the way to everything and everyone that is in this room. And if you can, even outside of this building, to the neighborhood, to the city, to the state, to these artificial lines called countries, all the way to this beautiful Mother Earth and even beyond. That it is your light that gives light and reflects back the light that's been given to you to borrow from the divine. And as you are in your heart before opening your eyes, just listen to a quatrain from Rumi. I'm going to read its original followed by the English translation. So just allow it to land in your heart as you are the light that you are. تا در دل من صورت آن رشک پریست، دلشاد چو من در این همه عالم کیست؟ والله که به جز شاد نمیدانم زیست. غم میشنوم ولی نمیدانم چیست. As long as the face of that inviolable angel is in my heart, who is joyous as me in all this universe? I swear I didn't know any life apart from joy. I swear I don't know any life apart from joy. I hear about sorrow, but I don't know what it is. So just blink slowly when you're ready. Just blink your eyes open, allow the light, the colors, the textures to just come in as you keep one eye on the heart and the other eye on this. But the former one is more important, because we're in this gathering not to accumulate more form, more sound, form, more things to see, form. We're here to see that cannot be seen by the two naked eyes in the skull. And because of that, as Rick was explaining, we live in the state that we live in, which as far as my age goes and all of my studies goes, there haven't been any age that hasn't been going through this. So we're not special. We never have been, we never will be. And that's a good thing. So, for those of you who might be a little bit familiar with Rumi, this poem of his might be paradoxical, contradictory even. The guy who's constantly 800 years ago, before neuroscience and Buddhist-inspired psychotherapists have found out that, oh, be with your emotions. He invited us towards pain, not to go get pain, but the inevitableness of pain and suffering, to be with it, feel it, embrace it, so it can be discharged. Things like trauma experts now know, the mystics have known for thousands of years, because they were rooted in the source. So, for those of you who are familiar, it's like, okay, here's a guy who's constantly speaking about pain, speaking about sorrow, but the spiritual kind, which is very different than the material kind. And he's saying that he doesn't even know what sorrow is. All he feels is joy. So it begs us to start with maybe discerning joy into the most fundamental two aspects of it, for the sake of our short time together. And the reason I use the word joy instead of happiness, because it's pretty much the same thing, is because years ago I promised myself, I think some friends were around, that this is being video, right? That the next book that comes out with the title Happiness on it, I'm going to kill someone. So sick and tired of that word. So sick and tired of those books. Because I've read them all, and seldom have I find anything sacred or divine. It's the regurgitation of things that can be Googleable. So there is the worldly transient joy, which by its nature, we're always pursuing it, never to attain it. And that's pretty much 90% of the spiritual books talking about joy and happiness. Because what makes money is the kind your ego wants, and they know that. But how can someone write about something that they haven't tasted? So in a way it's perfect, but it's up to you and me to discern. What's in the marketplace, it has no place in the marketplace of the heart. And so there's a worldly joy, which is also referred to mainly in the West as the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of joy. And we can quickly, hopefully, see in this short time that that's the problem. It's not supposed to be a pursuit, whereas in traditional perennial wisdom traditions of the authentic religions and spirituality, which there is no spirituality without a religion, unless it wants to be completely rootless, we see that the opposite of what Rumi is talking about and in this context what's worth talking about, it's more called the true, the permanent, the spiritual joy, which in this sense can be called the attainment of joy, an attainment of happiness, because it's something that is present, it's something that is not linear, it's not something that you gotta sell your car and your house and everything for a weekend workshop for someone to tell you how to breathe again, and how to be compassionate again, and how to be human, because you just forgot to to be one for a while. It's present. It's present. This is not a time to talk about spiritual materialism and capitalism, but I can't find a time that one can't at least hint at it. In this modern, secular, hedonistic culture that you and I breathe in and live in this context, joy and happiness is not something that can be taken lightly, unless you want to spend your entire life just pursuing it and chasing it. But then again, there's countless other things that the ego is constantly trying to pursue and chase until grave. But for those of us who are tired of that game, regardless of the culture and the generation and the age and all the seemingly things that we identify with because we have forgotten how to identify with the core, so then those things become something to belong to, which then can become very divisive as well, is that it needs to be looked at, not lightly. It needs to be looked at least the same way that we pursue kind of money and fame and the third house and the new Tesla from the sky who wants to take us to hell because Mars has no life, not even a cell in our body, the amount of life that exists in this brilliant, not me, this brilliant manifestation of God doesn't even exist there, but He wants to take us there. At least give a little bit of that goes to the transient, to the real. So the mystics are not asking us to do anything special, to sleep less, to like, oh my God, I gotta work so hard, as if like everything you've done, it wasn't hard. So it's the bluff of the mind that we need to pay attention to. So then there's the pursuit of joy, which is transient and it's impermanent, that you can see, you can never attain it. It always comes and goes, and somebody brings me flowers, and I'm like, I have a great day, and then I watch the news, and then boom, I have a bad day, and I go through all of this cold and hot several times a day. But this is not the way life is supposed to be, regardless of how much you and I have become immune to it. And regardless of what TV and the people reflect back to us, it's not the norm. Let it be norm for others. You have to choose what you want to normalize. And the mystics here say there is a better route to all of this. So the enduring joy, the permanent joy, the birthright, the innate nature, just like how animals, how plants, how flowers, the earth, the mountains, the water is content. They're not complaining. They're not arguing. So in a way, that is innately in us. So before we get into the how part of this, is that the great news about this more true joy that is available, that is neither is rooted from nor informed by the transient, it provides at least two great things for us. And that is, the first thing is that it allows us to see life and to see things more clearly as they are. Because in order to be able to be in touch with real joy, the prerequisite is you have to be already seated in your core, in your heart. And you have to be informed from within, not from outside, which changes every other day. It changed several times in your life. Just like, every 13 years, this body is not even the same anymore. Let alone all the cells that have died since last time, a few minutes ago, when we were laughing. When it's seated from there, we see beyond the form. We see what Rumi calls the inner meaning of things. We're not tricked by, nor lured by, nor manipulated by just the form. There are a lot of flowers or even plants more beautiful than this flower, but if you eat it, it will kill you. Right? So forms are just forms. There are a lot of people that look certain ways, but you never know who they really are inside. And I can go on and on and on. So, in a way, the spiritual path, as I've said this before here, is a journey of discernment from form to inner meaning, to the essence of things. And that's the difference between, lay people and mystics, because they get to see things a little bit more clearly. So, when we then see things more clearly, it just brings joy in itself. Because when you see something, and you're not going to be manipulated by it, you're not going to be lured by it, it's going to create nothing but contentment in itself. And that discernment is joyous in itself. And the second thing that it does is that should we want to transform the world, should we want to support the world, support the environment, support causes, support my family, support anything, then I'm able to do that at the root level. Not the artificial surface-like fixations and remedy that begets itself, that is borrowed from outside. Because you are in your core, and you see things more clearly, like a divine physician, for anything, you will have a more sustainable answer. And a deeper presence. And a more incredible ability to listen to the longing behind the words. And then you'll know how to bring someone to joy. To taste joy, the real joy, because you've gone through it yourself. So we see things more clearly, we are more joyous, and we stop this vicious cycle by participating in minimizing the collective fakeness of support. And we all, if we were, with a big if, have a moment to really sit in quiet and reflect. We know things are not working. We know our ways are not always working. We know our suggestions are. We have no idea what they are. Most of them are regurgitated or learned in a book somewhere else. And people like Shams, who transformed Rumi's life, always said, "Who are you? What do you know?" And no matter what Rumi said, a scholar with over 10,000 students at the time, Shams wasn't convinced. He said, no, those are your fathers, those are from the Prophet, those are from this, those are from the Quran. What do you know? But then in order for me to know, I have to close down the shop momentarily in the midst of the marketplace to see what's inside. So, how do we do this in this short period of time that I have with you? Because we could just talk about this for hours or weeks. So there are the antidotes to happiness and joy, and then there are some sign points that I would like to leave you with as measurements and compass. So, some of the antidotes to joy and happiness, in addition to fear, doubt, and separation, comes from Al-Ghazali, who was one of the most influential mystics, died in 1111, before Rumi was even born, about a century before Rumi was born, in his incredible book called Kimya-e Sa'adat, The Alchemy of Happiness. And in that book, in addition to many amazing things, he mentioned some of these antidotes, some of these hindrances. I'm going to go through them very fast, but it's like our weird relationship with food, right? Like gluttony, which then it mirrors back the imbalancedness of our relationship with things. Wrongful speech, that which comes out from the mouth, comes from source. So saying lies and saying things that are not truthful or not being mindful of speech also hinders the purity of the heart where joy resides. Anger. Now, of course, as Rick was saying, we can give an hour lecture on neuroscience of anger and how righteous anger and how the brilliancy of anger and how the message of anger is brilliant. But barely anyone I know is in touch with that anger. It's the anger that they learned from mommy and daddy, from the hundreds and thousands of gunshots and violence that a child sees till the age of 18. Not that kind of anger, which is like base. It's like worse than animals that humans are willing to partake in. So, but the anger that Azali is talking about is the anger that is just eating you out, is making you, is hardening your heart, which makes you the loser. Because it's the most precious thing that needs to be kept soft. Envy, stinginess, and love for wealth, which is again attachment. There's nothing wrong with wealth. Frivolity and love for prestige, love of the world, the attachment to the transient, arrogance, pride, and ostentation versus sincerity. And ostentation currently is really alive. In this context, it's like when you want to do something piety or something sacred, but you want to do it in front of other people to show, which is like one of the biggest chronic diseases that we all live in, and it's called virtual signaling. The entire social media is a platform to exercise virtual signaling. I dare you to go capture one of those individuals and actually check in how much money, time they've spent on charities and the environment and the activisms that they just take a little photo, we got outfits, and like Ukraine. It's like Ukraine doesn't need your outfit. Sad, because there's got to be such hardening of the heart and detachment from the most fundamental emotion a human can feel to do something like that. It takes one to know one, because I grew up in war and I am a war child. These things are not funny. So, what are some of the signposts? The signposts are not forgetting the alchemical reciprocity of real prayer. Be careful of the secular, hedonistic, anti-Christian, whatever modernism, that now every time you just want to pray for something, makes fun at it with a meme and says, oh, you're going to just pray? While they're sitting on their butt, just memeing away. No, be careful. There is power in prayer. Of course, prayer, authentically, in every tradition, was never separated from action. But if you hear all of this stuff, anti-prayer stuff, which is very focused, and traditional perennial philosophers have written amazing books on it already in the 20th century, onto the 21st century, it's best to not give up on the alchemical reciprocity that prayer has on your heart and every fiber of your being. Thankfulness is very important. Being in gratitude, because thankfulness not only allows you to be thankful, but shapes your neurons in your brain, in your heart, in your intuition, to be able to even look and see how blessed you are. Short of that, you're just going to create misery and believe that, life is really awful, especially when you turn on the channel and then everybody's doing whatever they're doing these days. It's very easy to be ungratefulness, which in Islam is a sin. And a sin is just a deviation from the center. It's not a bad girl, bad boy, you're going to be called to the principal's office or something. My time is up, but a couple more things. Remembrance. Remembering what? Everything. This moment, this breath, this present moment. Remembering gratitude, remembering goodness, remembering that you've been freely gifted the most precious thing called life, and every breath and every heartbeat has been granted to you freely while we whine all day long. But there are people who would do anything to have what you and I have, regardless of what state we're in. Fasting of all kinds, from media, from food, from this, from different thinking, and in this context of kind of the Islamic Sufism, contentment is one of the signs of joy, but not just your contentment, because there is a verse in the Quran, and there is this prayer, not only for me to be content, but for God to be content with me as well. So there is an actual check and balance here. We're not on your individualistic kind of make-up, put together whatever spirituality or path. There is an actual connection. There's actual teachers. There are friends of the heart around, acting as mirrors to make sure that we are going to get to the destination, destination-less destination. So to end with, Fariduddin Attar, the 12th century Persian mystic, said, "Kedan anta be ma'ni mutaqi Sayyid as on Quran Shahid." He says, who knows who in reality is reverent towards God? Among us, who is happy and who is wretched? So we don't know, but we do know about ourselves when we check in. And the goal is to find that joy. The goal is to be content, regardless of what outside ups and downs come and go. Our hearts, our life is worth more than that. Rumi lived during an earthly eclipse. There was war all around him. He wasn't a poet to begin with. That's a mistake, because poetry is when someone sits and intentionally composes. They all came through him, and others wrote it while he was in the state of ecstasy. But all around him, the Mongols were killing everything. The Crusades just were ending, and the Islamic world was beginning its first wave of amnesia. They were forgetting the essence. So it wasn't like he was laying lavender in tulip fields and with sugar in his cane and a little straw and kind of writing about, an earthly love. So my time is up. There is so much to say, but my prayer and hope is that we be smart enough to not lose life by the noises outside. And in addition to the prayer stuff that is out there, or anything else in the secular world that's been in the works since the 1600s, and we've reached this summit right now, and that's why there's so much suicide and mental health, and like even our architecture, not in this case, even our architecture and our art don't reflect back beauty anymore to us. Sacred art, the sacred talk, the sacred connections are gone. And so just to not lose the sacred by the noises that have always existed and will come and will go. And to also not fall into this polarization or dichotomy that you need to do one before the other or this one before the other. All of that is all made up. For those of us who have done the work, you know that you can be both internal, in the interiority of your being, and be part of the world. But for those people that actually can partake in the transformation and change and changing the world. The world doesn't need more angry, ruthless, floating, momentarily excited and passionate people. We need more grounded people. And both of those can coexist. And the former is nobody's business. You don't need to post it on Instagram, you meditated for 2 minutes. It's between you and God, you and your source. So no one needs to know about it, let alone try to play those games with you. So I'm not done yet. There's going to be Q&A. So here I'm just going to slowly transition to that for however many minutes we have here. I thank you for your time and attention in listening to this. This is a big thing. It was a burden to go like, oh, okay, well, talk about joy. Because one thing that I've learned is that we mistakenly think that everyone who talks about something or writes a book about something knows it. But in reality is people write books that they need to hear and give speeches that they need to hear, and they write books that they need to read. So if anyone has any questions right now, I'll hang around afterwards in the common area as well. But anything to spend the next few minutes kind of bringing you in around this joy that is ever present with pretty much everything in life, threatening it, and how to protect it, and how to attain it. No more pursuing. Attain it now.
Can we ask anything?
Yes, and let's have a microphone.
Yeah, she has a microphone. Yes, anything, preferably about what's been shared so far.
Well, you said there can't be spirituality without a religion. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, it's a great question. From my own life, from my own humble experiences, and from all of the studies that I've done in pretty much all the authentic wisdom traditions, religions, and spirituality, is that, let me preface it, in the Quran, it says that there have been 124,000 prophets, all the way to the Prophet Muhammad, which the Muslims believe is the seal of all the prophets. So every mankind, every culture, every nationality, every people have been given the message. And what constitutes religion or the prophet is a divine connection, like a book that is revealed or a message that is revealed through the human. And so when I look at all the spirituality and when I look at all the religions, I cannot see anywhere in history that spirituality, which in reality is the practical essence of religion. Because religion, like for example in Islam, are three things. There is the Shariat, which is the law that we learned like not to, and if it wasn't for that, we would be killing more of one another. Things like we learned from the prophets and from these mystics, women and men, throughout the centuries. The conduct, how to be human. We've been gifted with this image of God, and we've been gifted the prefrontal cortex and so many other things that other creatures do not have, that don't make us special in a way to dominate them. But we've been given the trust on earth, as it says in the Quran. We are the trustees. We have a lot of responsibility to ensure the earth, the environment, the animals, everything is just, and it's the just that we've been given, right? So in that sense, I haven't seen any spirituality, and I've never seen it in any literature all the way to the last 20, 30 years in the West, that there is even this concept that these two are separate and one can coexist without the other. So it's in that context that I believe in that firmly, that spirituality, so Shariat is the law, then you have the Tariqat, which is the path, you have the Haqiqat, which is the truth. So the religion brought in the laws for us to learn, like how to be virtuous. Where do we learn virtue from? Like the modern atheist says, well, I know and I don't need any of that. No, you're eating from the breadcrumbs of Christianity in this country, and you just don't want to admit it because you're filled with hate, not reason. And if you're filled with reason, it's rational reason, not divine reason. And on and on and on. So then you have the path. Every religion gave us a path. And that's where those mystics came into, or became one. Because then, in order to practice those teaching, the more esoteric teaching, outside of just don't kill or be kind to your neighbors, when you practice that, an inner journey begins. And then later we found out, wow, there is this thing, now we call it spirituality. There's an ascent of the soul. There's a refinement of the ego. Pouria moves away from smelling like dung all the way to maybe the fragrance of the roses like the prophets smelled, like physically and literally. And if you've been in the presence of real mystics, you can smell beauty, even with the nose. And then you have the Hadith, the third, which is the truth. Right? So then you get to the truth. And you can't, they're all coexist. You cannot have one, like the pseudo-Sufis or the pseudo-spiritualists who just want to be all spiritual, but have no virtue, have no morals, have no ethics. They're not rooted in something perennial. Not ethics and morals learned from church or family or based on fear, but that inner knowing, which then you can find greatly in religion and spiritual texts. I hope that just answers at least where I'm coming from.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Actually, it's an observation. I don't know if it's a question. It might be. But your voice is so melodious and so calming. I found myself kind of in a meditative state, and that alone is a gift for me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
But one other thing.
You didn't fall asleep, did you?
Well, maybe. But that's okay. So, as you were talking, I was reminded when you came here, I think it was 2.5 years ago or so, you had a colleague with you who danced, a woman who danced. And I kept seeing her feet and that wonderful motion.
Yes.
Very disciplined, but yet very, I can't find words for it. That was a vision that I had as you were talking. So that's also a gift, and I don't know if you have any comment about that.
Well, I'm humbled by your observation and your experience. What I can speak to is the whirling. So what you saw, the whirling, is the practice in Islamic Sufism. And that got popularized with Rumi. It existed before Rumi, but Shams taught Rumi many things, including the whirling, static dance, and just get out of your head and be embodied. 800 years ago. So then what Rumi would do, in addition to that, is that when he was uttering the last idea as Hossamuddin was writing it down, the 900-page Masnavi, which is one of his 2 big collections of poetry, there was a pole in the room and he would just rotate around it in a state of ecstasy. And then, his son, and then that became a thing all the way to now in Turkey is the #1 capitalistic way of making money is to go see a bunch of whirling dervishes. It's become like a circus. But if we were to put all of that aside and go to the core of it, what you were feeling, the purity, taste of it, is that every cell, every atom, every particle of this universe, let alone the objects and the bodies in this room, is whirling constantly. But it's whirling around and whirling and dancing like a mother on the candle for the beloved, because they haven't forgotten it. It's the human that choice that forgot. So then to whirl is to just be like every other particle in the universe, whirling around the heart. And what's interesting is that in whirling, people find stillness. Because just like you cannot see the earth whirling right now, the particle whirling, there's a stillness that is created. And furthermore, the word sama, which is the Persian word for the whirling, initially, when it was used, and still initially it means deep hearing, deep listening. Why? Because the mystics used to have their students whirl, and when they would get into that whirling, which outside they were whirling, but inside they were boom, they would then lecture and give a discourse. And then later through history, that act took the name Deep Listening Center. So, hope that helps. Thank you.
We have time for one more.
We have time for one more. Fight for it.
Is this something, do I need to do anything?
Hi.
Okay. So I've been, maybe all my life, on a healing path. And definitely within the past several years, really focusing in, grounding, and opening to love God, my true self, call it ignorance. And I have found joy in that and radiation, if you, sorry, I'm trying to use the right words, but however, there are moments in my life to where I question of my calmness that I feel. I question if that is potentially bypassing the experiences that are around me. But then I question that with, is that my ego telling me that I need to be in this world and I am not in this world because I am not reacting as I have been told I need to? Or am I just understanding that it is not me, or it is not always important to, I can't quite articulate, and I hope everyone.
Well, I get it. Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the $1 million question, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you the why and I'll give you the how to the best ability in this moment, because things are not one size fits all. So it's very individually based. So all I can do in this context is give a little bit more of a general answer to that. One of the reasons you're feeling that, historically, it has to do with the fact that in the West, back in the 70s, because people went straight from the 50s to the hippie era, this phenomenon was created in the West here. We need to remember that. Which then people like John Wellwood from his teacher coined it as spiritual bypassing. Right? So like people thinking like just if they go and dance and smoke and pray and go to this guru, that guru in the 70s, suddenly like all their issues are gone. And that was a phenomenon that didn't exist anywhere else. It was just the makeup of this people here. So they had then about 20 years later to debunk spiritual bypassing, and then when psychotherapists, which was the first kind of field that like when boom, we found gold in Buddhism. Let's go bring it because this Western psychology is pretty like Freud, really. So what happened is that since then, to this point that you and I are speaking, it went so far that in every spiritual gathering, it's become so psychologized. So then, why am I saying that? Is that the doubts that we have are not purely spiritual. They're all filled with psychology terminology. Psychological bypassing? Is it spiritual bypassing? Am I just numbing? Is this my ego? Like all of this jargon that people in the street didn't know in psychotherapy. So then, because of that, the discerning becomes a little bit more difficult. Because you're right, like, is it me dissociating? Or am I really opening up to the dissociation of the world? Is this me numbing myself? Is this me just having a momentary thing and it's my ego? Or is it my depression doing the trick on me and it's my trauma kind of like left behind that column over there? So what happens with the psychological bypassing, which is something I've termed, is that then it creates the never ending doubt, right? So then they hum. This is something that needs real great attention one-on-one with someone for you to figure this out. It's too much for one person. And for centuries, we've had the shamans and healers and the tribe, the chief of the tribe. And in every culture, there was an elder. Something we don't have as much anymore. As Michael Mead said, we're getting older, but we're not producing much elders. There is no room in the society for teenagers, therefore no rites of passage, and there is no room for people that are getting old. So even if people that are getting older, they're elder, they got nothing to give back, because we don't look at them. This fountain of youth is what we're looking at. We keep looking backwards. So it's very important in this time to just find someone decent enough in this context to explore this, because it's very nuanced. Because the journey, I will tell you, I do this with my clients, spiritual coaching and direct a lot. This is $1 million question to bring it back. Is the first step is discernment of the nuances. And then once the person knows that, yeah, okay, this is not my ego, this is not just a doubt, then they can take a deep breath and we can look at it more clearly. But the first whole phase of the work is to get rid of all of this crap. The psychology, too much of it has been turned into our spirituality. Does that help just in this context of generality? Does that help a little bit? Because I completely validate, confirm, and that's why I call it $1 million question, because he or she who thinks of it is blessed. Also, there's the universality of it, because more than any time, this is the last thing I'll say, just like more than any time in history, as far as we know, our air hasn't been this polluted. And I will tell you, like no other time in history has our spirituality been as polluted as it is now. And so I wish for all of us, thank you everyone for your time, because time is the most precious gift you can give to yourself and to anyone, because we don't know how much of it we have left. I want to thank everyone for inviting me, those of you who've thought of me, Sandra and Rick for your beautiful music, and may we all just find the joy that is ever present, that we don't have to chase, but instead maybe take a deep breath, close down the shop, even in the middle of the chaos, and taste it. And the more we taste it, and the more we are in touch with it, that which we pay attention to only grows, because that abides by the laws of existence. And as long as you and I are alive, we can't bypass them. So thank you so much.
Well, we're in for another treat with Sandra, and then we'll conclude our service. It is time to get in touch not only with our inner selves today, but with our back books. And so please, there has never been a more important time to invest in personal and systemic change, of which Althea represents. And so, ushers, if you will start passing around the baskets. There are a variety of ways that you can give. On the back of your program, you have, what do you call this?
QR code.
QR code, thank you. Shows you how often I use them. You can also be an evergreen donator, weekly, monthly withdrawal. We have the baskets going around. We have our dip jar in the back where you can take a credit card and just dip it 10 or 12 times, however many you want. And so ushers, when you're done, if you'll bring your donations, contributions forward, and we'll do a blessing. Thank you. And so if you just want to say along with me, or just close your eyes, let us affirm together in our hearts and minds, the universe provides all that I need and all that I give. With great joy, I share my prosperity, planting seeds for a world I am helping manifest. And so it is. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Somebody does that? Affirmative prayers. Who's doing affirmative prayers today? Suzanne?
If you want a personal, private prayer, please.
And I'm here to tell you, Suzanne gives dynamite prayer. Do you want, where's that? Oh, you ready for an announcement?
Yes. We good? And I don't say it right, just Where is it held, the spiritual treatment?
Sorry. It's going to be back in the prayer room, off of the
It's in the library.
off of the library. There's a little square room.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, right.
All right, welcome. Hello, everyone. I am Jenny. Good to see you all. Happy to be here. What we were just working out, because I have a feeling many of you are going to be interested in this, we had started this before the pandemic even, or I think during it, and we're going to bring it back now. Pouria wants to teach a multi-week, in-person, in the evenings, class here at Althea around Rumi. So if you loved what you heard today, woohoo, yes. If you enjoyed connecting to what you heard today, you get to do this in a much smaller group, multi-week, as I say, in the evenings. So more on that later. We're still working out dates and what that's going to look like, but that is coming, so yay that. So many things to talk about. First of all, we have wonderful Sundays for the rest of the month of June for you. Next Sunday, we are going to be celebrating Father's Day and Juneteenth. And so in that spirit, we have Greg Roche, who is going to speak. He's a father. He had a father. And so he's going to talk about that, a little bit around divine masculine. And it's going to be called Through Me, Not From Me, the double-edged sword of fatherhood. So come for that. And then we also have special musical guests. We have Luis Parente Rios, Christopher Weatherall, and our own Daryl Johnson, who are going to be singing for us. And Luis and Christopher are also going to be doing some special readings to honor Juneteenth. So absolutely come to that. And then, of course, the last Sunday is Pride. And what we have decided to do as a community to support Pride and the Pride Parade is that we are encouraging everyone to join us at Cheeseman Park. We've got to all march together in Pride Parade. We have up on the bulletin board places to sign up if you want to march with us, if you want to help us get ready. And so we're not going to have a regular service, and we won't have lunch because we want everyone to roll out for that who can and support it. But our doors will be open that Sunday, and we will have folks here if you'd like to show up. We just won't have a regular service or lunch. So that's what's going on there, but Pride 2020 goes on with our stage singers, who heard them last week here. Woo, the amazing chorus. I'm sorry, I say our stage singers like they are ours. Okay, they're their own thing out in the world. And we have several members who are part of it. But they want you to know that Sunday, June 12th, 3 p.m., that's today. Am I right? Okay. 3 p.m. today at the First Baptist Church at 14th and Grant, right nearby. They will be performing. QR code right here to buy tickets for that. So please let us know. I think these are all around, but we'll make sure that they're available for you. And also today, we would normally have Pouria do what we call a deep dive, which is where we go in the historic library or Darwin's Den in a small group and get to talk about what we heard today after lunch. We are not going to do that because we're honoring that one of our favorites, Barbara Tess, went on to the great beyond a few weeks ago, and they're having their celebration of life from 1 to 4 today at the Mercury Cafe. So roll out for that. But we will still have a beautiful lunch today. Our new person, it's free for you. So please roll out for that. And we also have coffee and tea and plenty of other things that people have handed to me. An amazing woman donated her yard full of flowers and plants to us and planted it. Do I have that right, Sarma?
Yes.
Did the work. Oh my gosh. There it is. Thank you. All right. So, we've been wanting to kind of get that energy of yard work, which is cool. We want volunteers, we want folks who want to help take care of our green space. And so that's a great way to get that energy going. So please let us know. Sarna, who's the head of our volunteers, is always needing more volunteers, and she's trying to bring together some of this garden club, as we're calling it. And somehow, the crazy folks here have decided it's not enough to be a garden club. You need a drumming circle connected to the garden. I don't even know what this is. But somehow drumming will be involved. So if you want to be part of that strange, wonderful mess, let Sarna know. Let's see, I want to make sure I don't leave anything out, anything. Your program tells you a whole lot that's going on the back. We have events coming up, a gong bath. If you've never been to a gong bath, come. It will happen right here after service on June 26th. Starting on Sundays, join Matthew Quigley, who is also a chef, for a 90-minute journey of breathwork, music, and yoga. Again, it's all right here.
When is Matthew?
When is which? Matthew is Sundays, like today, 2 o'clock, 2 to 3:30. Yeah, and there is a cost. You guys got to pay the bills. So there's that. Is there anything else? I don't want to leave anybody.
Community Connections on Thursday with Kathy Fiona.
Say them all again. What?
Community Connections on.
Oh, Community Connections. That happens every Thursday. Cool. All right. Thanks.
All right, we are going to do the fastest closing prayer filled with nothing but joy. So if you are comfortable, please close your eyes. And let us just affirm right here and right now in this moment, which is the only moment we have right now. And that is that our hearts, each and every one of you in your own way, are filled with the joy of simply being alive. And so each in our own ways we give thanks to this immutable fact. We bless ourselves, we bless each other, we bless this world. We bless everything that we've received today as gifts. And in our heart of hearts we give thanks, and together we say, and so it is. Joyful day, everyone. Thank you.
Jenny. Well,